3:17 a.m. The ceiling fan clicks on its fifth rotation, same rhythm, same creak, same dark bedroom I've stared at for 3 hours straight. My phone screen glows face up on the nightstand. 47 unread messages. 47. I counted them at midnight, then again at 2 a.m., just to make sure the number hadn't magically shrunk while I lay there bargaining with God for sleep. Monday's coming in hot, and I'm already losing. On the kitchen counter, 3 invoices stamped past due in that aggressive red font companies use when they want you to feel like a deadbeat. Upstairs, my kid's forehead burning at 102.3, Tylenol wearing off faster than my ability to pretend I'm handling this. And in my calendar app, circled in digital red, performance review, 10 a.m., conference room B, with a boss who's been side-eyeing my numbers since last quarter. The fan clicks. I inhale. The weight sits on my chest like a cinder block. POV, you're a grown adult lying paralyzed in the dark, mentally rehearsing conversations that haven't happened yet, catastrophizing outcomes that probably won't happen, and wondering when you became this person who gets wrecked by a Monday that's still 6 hours away. This isn't a polished sermon. I'm not standing behind a pulpit with perfect hair and a 3-point outline. I'm the guy who screamed, "I can't do this anymore," into a pillow last March when the business deal I'd prayed over for 18 months collapsed in a single email. Subject line, "We've decided to go another direction." Cold. Clinical. A prayer journal entry the night before had read, "God, I trust you're opening this door." The door didn't just close, it got drywalled over. I've got a journal full of those entries. Tear-stained pages asking, "Where were you, after the relationship ended in betrayal? Why didn't you stop it, after the diagnosis came back worse than expected? Do you even see me, after the 5th rejection letter hit my inbox on a Tuesday afternoon while I sat in a parking lot eating cold French fries, pretending I wasn't about to break?" And here's the thing, if any of that sounds familiar, if you've got your own 3 a.m., your own pile of invoices, your own feverish kid, your own inbox full of people demanding versions of you that you don't have the energy to be, you need to hear what happened when the first gray light finally crept through my blinds. The coffee maker sputtered at 5:47 a.m. I poured a cup. Didn't drink it. It sat there going cold while I stared at the kitchen wall, watching shadows shift as dawn broke through the slats. That's when it hit me, not a lightning bolt, not an angelic choir, just a quiet, uncomfortable realization that I'd been fighting a battle I was never supposed to carry alone. Here's the mirror moment. Lean in close, because this is where you see yourself. The enemy's greatest victory in my life hasn't been destroying me. It's been convincing me that Monday is mine to conquer. That the invoices, the review, the fever, the 47 messages, they're all on my shoulders. That if I just grind harder, pray longer, stress more intensely, I can hold it all together. And when I can't, when the deal collapses, when the relationship implodes, when the diagnosis lands like a grenade in the middle of my plans, the whisper comes, "See? You're failing. God's not showing up. You're on your own." That's gaslighting of the highest order. Spiritual gaslighting. And I bought it for years. But in that cold coffee, grey-dawn kitchen, I finally understood, the crisis isn't the pressure. The crisis is surrender. Or rather, my refusal to do it. I picked up my Bible. Not as a perfect saint. Not as someone who had answers. I picked it up like Jacob limping toward Peniel, wrestling, desperate, ready to grab hold of something divine and not let go until it changed me. The pages fell open to Proverbs, and my eyes landed on words I'd highlighted years ago, back when faith felt simpler and life hadn't kicked the wind out of me yet. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. I read it once. Then again. Then out loud, my voice cracking in the silence of a kitchen that had witnessed too many of my quiet defeats. Lean not on your own understanding. That's the part that always trips me up. I want the full map. I want the 5-year plan with color-coded milestones. I want to know how the invoices get paid, how the review goes, how the fever breaks. And God says, trust me without seeing the full map. Acknowledge me in the middle of the mess, and I'll direct the steps you can't even see yet. The page turned. The sound was sharp in the stillness, paper scraping paper, a decision made in the quiet. I didn't feel a surge of miraculous peace. I didn't hear an audible voice. But something shifted. A flicker. A desperate, stubborn, barely there hope that whispered, you don't have to figure out Monday. You just have to show up with me. Memorable truth, surrender isn't weakness, it's the moment you stop fighting a battle that was never yours to win. But trust isn't a feeling, it's a fight. And my fight was just beginning. My voice cracked on the word understanding. I read it again. Slower. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. The word acknowledge stopped me. Not figure out. Not solve. Not have a fully funded emergency account and a 5-year strategic plan. Acknowledge. Show up. Point at Him in the middle of the chaos and say, you're still God, and I'm still yours. Instead, I did something that felt ridiculous and holy at the same time. I grabbed a yellow sticky note from the drawer, and I wrote in sharp, angry letters. God is ordering my steps this week. Not might be. Not hopefully. Is. Present tense. Active. Right now. Then I walked over to the stack of bills on the counter, and I slapped that sticky note right on top of them. Not as denial. Not as some prosperity gospel magic trick. As a prophetic act. A declaration that the God who owns cattle on 1,000 hills sees my Visa bill, and He hasn't flinched. What if Monday morning isn't a punishment but an altar? What if the pressure you're feeling right now isn't evidence of God's absence but the setup for His intervention? My mind didn't like that. It immediately retaliated. But the numbers don't add up. But the doctor hasn't called back. But you have no plan B, no safety net, no backup strategy if this falls apart. But, the logic of a terrified human being who's been trained by experience to expect disappointment. And I'm not going to pretend those thoughts are easy to silence. They're not. They're loud, they're persistent, and they sound so reasonable. That's the trap. The enemy doesn't always scream lies, sometimes he whispers math that doesn't factor in miracles. The word for trust in that proverb is batach. And it doesn't mean intellectual agreement. Batach means to lean your full weight on something. To collapse onto it. To stop holding yourself up and let something else bear the load. Picture a child standing on a chair, back turned to their father, arms crossed over their chest, eyes closed. The father is right there, close enough to catch, strong enough to hold. But the child has to fall backward. That's batach. That's trust. And every instinct in that child's body is screaming, don't do it. Put your foot down. Catch yourself. You'll hit the ground. I know that scream. I've heard it at 3 a.m. I've heard it in the parking lot before walking into a job I wasn't sure I'd still have at the end of the day. I've heard it in the waiting room, scrolling through my phone pretending to be calm while my mind was already writing eulogies for dreams that hadn't even died yet. Mirror moment, right here, right now. Don't look away. What are you holding onto so tightly that your knuckles are white? What outcome are you gripping like your life depends on controlling it? Is it a relationship? A career move? A child's future? A diagnosis? A reputation? What would happen if you opened your hands, physically, right now, palms up, and let God be responsible for the results? I'll tell you what happens. Terror first. Then relief. Then something that feels dangerously close to peace. Let me take you back to a Monday 2 years ago. Different kitchen, different city, same cold coffee. I got a phone call at 8:14 a.m. The kind of call where the voice on the other end uses words like restructuring and we value your contributions and effective immediately. In 60 seconds, my plan A evaporated. My carefully constructed budget, my projections, my sense of security, gone. I remember standing in the shower fully clothed because I'd walked in there to escape the noise of my own thoughts and just stood there. Water soaking through my shirt. No tears. No prayer. Just numbness. I called that day the worst Monday of my life. I called it chaos. I called it abandonment. But here's the complication, the part that took me 18 months to see. That layoff. That closed door. It wasn't punishment. It was extraction. The company I worked for was under investigation 6 months later. Executive team indicted. If I'd stayed, I would have been tangled in legal battles I couldn't afford and moral compromises I didn't see coming. God didn't close a door of opportunity. He pulled me out of a trap I didn't know was set. Memorable truth, obedience doesn't require understanding, it requires proximity. You don't need the whole blueprint. You don't need to know how chapter 14 resolves. You need the next step. Just the next one. And the God who orders your steps doesn't promise to show you the destination, He promises to walk with you toward it. So there I was, back in the present tense, sticky note on the bills, voice still hoarse from declaring truth I half believed. And I realized I had a choice. The same choice I've had every Monday of my adult life. Keep white-knuckling my plans, my fears, my desperate attempts to manufacture security, or open my hands. I opened them. Physically. Palms up. Right there in the kitchen, with the microwave clock blinking 6:03 and the coffee still untouched and the sun finally breaking through the window like it had been waiting for permission. I didn't feel a surge of supernatural power. I didn't hear angelic music. But something shifted in my chest, a loosening, an exhale, a surrender that felt less like defeat and more like coming home. I started naming the fears out loud. Not to wallow in them. To evict them. Fear of lack. Fear of man. Fear of failure. Fear of being forgotten. Fear that I'd missed my window. Fear that God was disappointed in me. Fear that my faith wasn't strong enough and He'd finally given up. One by one, I laid them down. Not as a ritual. Not as a magic spell. As a covenant exchange. My chaos for His peace. My understanding for His direction. My clenched fists for His open hands. The cold coffee was still there. The bills were still there. The 47 messages were still there. But the weight had shifted. Not because the circumstances changed, because the posture of my heart did. And I started to pray. Not the polished, Sunday morning, hands folded neatly kind of prayer. The raw kind. The kind where your voice sounds foreign to your own ears because you haven't used it for anything honest in weeks. I started naming things out loud. Specific things. Granular things. Lord, I place my 10 o'clock meeting on the altar. The one I've been dreading since Thursday. The one where I have to pretend I'm not terrified about the numbers. I place it on the altar. I place my child's health on the altar. The symptoms we don't have answers for yet. The specialist appointment I've rescheduled twice because I'm afraid of what they'll find. I place it on the altar. Mirror moment. Right here. Because I know someone listening just felt their stomach drop. You've got that thing. That one thing you've been carrying so quietly that even the people closest to you don't know the full weight of it. This is your pause. Right now. In the quiet of wherever you are, your car, your kitchen, your empty office, your bed with the covers pulled up because you couldn't face the day yet, name it. Whisper it. Place it on the altar. I kept going. I placed the fear of that phone call on the altar. The one I'm always waiting for. The bad news call. The "we need to talk" call. The "there's been an accident" call. I place it on the altar. My voice was steadier now. Not because the fears had vanished, they hadn't, but because I was finally, actually, tangibly handing them over. Not in theory. Not in a vague, "God, take my worries" kind of way. Item by item. Fear by fear. Bill by bill. Relationship by relationship. And then the prayer shifted. It stopped being just about surrender and started being about something bolder. I asked for favor. Not the prosperity gospel, name it and claim it, God is your vending machine kind of favor. No. I asked for divine alignment. For God to go ahead of me into rooms I hadn't entered yet and prepare them. For supernatural synchronization between His purposes and my steps. Lord, go ahead of me into the conference room before my meeting starts. Prepare the hearts of everyone sitting at that table. Go ahead of me into the doctor's office. Guide the hands and the minds of every specialist. Go ahead of me to my kitchen table, where I'll sit tonight with my family, and prepare the conversations we'll have. Here's the memorable truth that anchored that moment for me, and I want you to write this down somewhere. On a sticky note. In your phone. On the mirror you'll look into tomorrow morning. God's favor isn't random luck, it's targeted grace for obedient steps. Read that again. God's favor isn't winning the lottery. It's not coincidence. It's not being in the right place at the right time by accident. It's targeted grace. Precision grace. Grace that knows exactly where you're going and exactly what you'll need when you get there. Proverbs 16 verse 9 says, "A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps." But here's what I never noticed before that morning in my kitchen. The Hebrew word for directs there, it doesn't just mean points in the right direction. It carries the weight of establishes, prepares, makes firm. God isn't just giving you a compass and wishing you luck. He's going ahead. He's preparing the ground before your foot ever lands. I thought about all the closed doors I've been resenting. The layoff. The relationships that ended. The opportunities that evaporated. And for the first time, I saw them differently. Not as rejection. Not as punishment. As preparation. As protection. As a God who orders steps so precisely that He sometimes closes doors just to keep you from walking into a room you were never meant to enter. My prayer shifted again. This time, it wasn't just surrender. It wasn't just a request. It was a declaration. And here's where I need you to lean in, because I'm going to speak this in first person plural. I'm going to say, I declare, but I want you to hear it as your own voice. Let these words become your words. Right now. Where you are. I declare this week will not be ruled by fear. I declare my mind is anchored in peace, not because my circumstances are perfect, but because my God is faithful. I reject the lie that delay means denial. I reject the lie that silence means absence. I reject the lie that my prayers are hitting the ceiling and falling back empty. I declare that God is ordering my steps. Not my emotions. Not my bank account. Not my fears. God. The same God who parted the Red Sea. The same God who shut the lions' mouths. The same God who spoke to a terrified Gideon hiding in a winepress and called him a mighty warrior. That God. He is ordering my steps. Mirror moment again. Think about last week. Last month. How many hours did you lose to anxiety? How many nights did you lie awake at 3:17 a.m., staring at the ceiling fan, running scenarios that never happened? How much peace did you forfeit to fears that never materialized? Now contrast that with this week. This week, you have a choice. The same choice I had in that kitchen with the cold coffee and the sticky note and the 47 unread messages. You can keep white-knuckling control, or you can open your hands. You can keep trying to be God, or you can let God be God. The prayer wasn't finished. I felt something rise in my spirit, a covering. A protection. Not just for me, but for my mind, my heart, my home. Lord, I ask you to close doors this week that lead to distraction. Close doors that lead to temptation. Close doors that lead to relationships that will pull me away from your purpose. And Lord, open doors that lead to purpose. Open doors that lead to divine connection. Open doors that no man can shut. I prayed protection over my mind, because the battlefield is always first in the thoughts. Over my heart, because a wounded heart makes reckless decisions. Over my home, because if my home isn't covered, nothing else stands. And then, I felt the shift complete. The weight didn't magically disappear. The bills were still on the counter.